Hey guys, welcome back to Paddock Chat. Today we have on the show a man I am very, very, very excited to introduce. It's the bloody wonderful Freddie Hunt. Freddie, how are you doing?
I'm very well, thanks, Jason. Thanks for having me on here.
No worries at all. We've actually been planning this for a while now, but I think you were away traveling, weren't you? Do you want to tell us where you were traveling to or anything in particular?
Yeah, I was in Thailand for a little while,
Ooh.
doing a holiday and work as well, and then I went to the Andaman Islands, which is in the Indian Ocean, just for a bit of peace and quiet and spot fishing.
Ah, not too bad, not too bad. Nice life, isn't it?
Well, the winter here is pretty bleak, and there's not an
Yeah.
awful lot to do. So I thought, well, might as well go somewhere nice, and I got my laptop so I can still work. So yeah.
Yeah. Have you been up to any racing recently? Obviously, I know we've all been missing F1, but have you been keeping yourself busy with any racing?
Not recently, but I'm off on Friday to Norway for an ice race, my first one, which
Yeah, you mentioned
looking
this.
forward to.
I was thinking, what the hell is an ice race?
I think it's just a frozen racetrack, which it's not serious. It's a lot. It's just going to be, it's fun.
Yeah.
They require a race license, but
Okay.
it's with my old teammate from back in 2022. We've remained good friends, and he's invited me out. So I thought, let's do it.
Okay, well, before we delve deep into your racing career, I've got a few icebreaker questions for you to get to know Freddie Hunt, really. So I'll
hmm
get straight into it. So if you were to have a dream Formula One team, uh, we'll call it Hesketh because why not, right? I'm sure it means something to you. With two drivers from the past. They can be any two drivers. I think I know who one of them is going to be. Which two drivers would you have?
Well, I'm guessing you're thinking one of them would be my dad.
Yeah.
However, I'm not sure.
How about your dad and Nicky Lauda?
Well, maybe. I mean, yeah, that'd be a fairly strong team. I mean, I think Senna would be one of the
Yeah,
obvious one. We would have to get on with his, if you want, two really good drivers in the car, and I don't think, well, I think from Senna's history, not many of his teammates really got a look in, did they?
mm.
Um, so, who else can I think of? Ooh, that's who. Gilles Villeneuve.
Gilles
I,
Villeneuve and
I still
Senna.
think he was one of the quickest ever.
Yeah,
And from what I've gathered, I don't know a huge amount about him. I've read his book and I've seen a few interviews and spoken
yeah.
to a few people about. He seemed like a nice bloke and he was pretty hardworking. So I think maybe Gilles and my dad, because I think that it was actually dad that they nearly were teammates. Do you know that?
Really?
It was dad that got Gilles into Formula One in the first place.
Oh, I
So
never knew that. Huh?
in '76, Dad was invited out with a bunch of other, I think it was '76. Yeah, it was with a bunch of other F1 drivers for a Formula Atlantic race in Canada. And Dad went out there. I think Dad finished second, maybe third, but I think it was second. He was in the same team as Gilles, and they talked a lot about setup and so Dad got the car set up as well as he could. I mean, Gilles was the dominant driver. He was, I think, dominating the championship. Um, and Gilles absolutely spanked Dad, even though their cars were, same team, same setup, or near enough. So Dad picked up the phone to McLaren and said, "You need to get this guy in a Grand Prix car. He's really special." And so they did. They put him in the third McLaren at Silverstone the following season. He didn't finish the race well because one of the I think his or one of the dials was giving it a wrong reading, so he pitted, and they said no, the dial's wrong. But by which time he was too late. But he came out behind the leaders a lap or two down, and he stuck with them for the rest of the race. And then, long story short, McLaren weren't quick enough with the contract. When he got home, he got a call from a strange Italian man, and it was Enzo Ferrari. So yeah, that's how Gilles got into Formula One.
That's fantastic. Have you ever got to meet Jill since then and tell him my dad got you an F1?
No, Gilles died in
Yeah.
1980s, around the time I was born.
Oh,
His
okay.
son, I met his son when I did a race out there on the same track. I was invited out a few years ago in a little tin top car, and I met his son Jack. But yeah,
Um, that's actually really, really fascinating. I never knew that. I never knew James Hunt got Gilles Villeneuve in for Formula One.
Yeah, no, no, it's a cool story.
So if you could change one thing about modern Formula One, what would it be? Obviously, I know we've got the
Engines,
brake change.
engines. That's that's all. Most of it. I mean, most of it's all right, to be honest. I mean, F1 is doing really well now.
Hmm.
Um, uh, there's good discipline in terms of the points. I mean, the way the rules are enforced. Sometimes they seem to be a little bit. Mm, I'll be careful my words here. A little bit, prep school. Let's put it that way. Uh, uh, but on the whole, the sport's doing really great. I think there's more fans now than there ever have been. It's just sadly the noise of the cars.
Yeah.
But what these cars, this year's cars are like. I mean, everyone misses the V10s,
Mm.
and I really don't see the point um, in them having these hybrid cars. I mean, yes, you got the argument of that they are developing technology which then can be used for the good of transport globally, sure. But the argument that makes them more eco-friendly when they're flying jets back and forth across the country, across the globe, I'm sorry, that argument doesn't fly.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
no pun.
Honestly, it's hard to disagree with.
Hmm.
Um, yeah. I mean, I guess just like from a general standpoint, do you still keep up with much Formula One at all, or?
Yeah, I mean, I watch. I think I only missed two races last year. I watch as
Yeah.
many as I can, and I follow it as close as I can. But I'm also a busy man myself, so
Yeah.
uh, I don't sit there reading all the news articles and
Uh,
and seeing news. But no, I like to turn the show on at the beginning of it so I can see all the chat beforehand, and
yeah.
I watch some of the
Absolutely.
Friday practices as well.
Do you root for McLaren at all after your dad obviously had such a historic stint there?
Of course, yeah,
Bet you were a happy man last season.
absolutely, and the year before, so two constructors titles on the trot.
And the year before,
Uh,
of course.
yeah,
So
and
I want to just go straight into your career now, and obviously I could talk all day about your dad, but I think it's worth saying you are a fantastic racing driver in your own right, with so many different racing series you've competed in. So I just wanted to ask you, when you were in school, obviously much younger, what was it like growing up with your dad being obviously so legendary status that he is, and was it always expected for you to go into motorsport, or was that something that came later on down the line?
It came later because Dad died when I was only 5 years old.
Yeah.
So really nothing about him. Well, pretty much nothing about him. I was aware that my father was a world champion, and he was world famous, but that really didn't mean anything to me. Um, I wasn't thinking about motorsport at all. It never entered my mind. I grew up on the back of a horse, and country boy, horses and riding and field sports. Motorsport never came into the picture. My uncle did mention a couple of times, do you want to try karting? But it never really clicked why. I don't know. It's just the way life goes, I suppose. And it wasn't until I was 19 that I started. And when I first started, I was so ignorant of the sport. I didn't realize there was a difference between a road tire and a racing tire.
Was that so did you start in karts when you were 19? Or was it a different type of racing you
Not
started?
karts, no, straight into Formula Ford, the
Oh,
British
was
Formula
it
Ford.
straight into Formula Ford? Okay, yeah. How did that get on
Yeah.
then? Your first season, obviously not having a previous racing background, going straight into Formula Ford.
Shambles. Um, yeah, absolute shambles.
um,
Uh, Mostly because I was ill prepared for the pressure of it. I mean, the pressure I then put on myself because prior to that, I'd never had a conversation with a journalist. I'd never been photographed before, and then suddenly I go to a race meeting, and I'm center of attention. Um, and I didn't really know how to deal with that. And then additional pressure was that I knew that I was fast. The winter testing I did before, in pre-season, I was showing quite a lot of potential. I was a lot faster than other drivers with a few years' experience. I wasn't the fastest, but I was faster than enough of them. And then I was aware that that reputation got out before the beginning of the season, and it played with my mind a lot. And I'm sure it's a very mental sport.
Mm.
If you're not right on it, you're going to be a tenth or two off. And I wasn't even close to right on it. I was that's why I was 2 seconds off my own pace in the races and qualifying, or even on the Friday practice when the official test, 2 seconds off or in the wall. So we had a big crash damage bill that year. I didn't finish many races, so yeah, it was a shambles.
But then obviously it got much better than that the seasons following, from what I can research.
Yeah, 2008 was. I mean, I did very little racing in 2008 because of the lack of sponsors. Um, but the one race I did do and I won was in a Ginetta. I was invited up to Mallory literally the night before. So someone said, "Fred, there's a seat available, for free. Come and drive." And I did. And because I didn't know the car, I didn't know. Oh no, I did know the track. I'd driven tested a Formula Ford there. Um, but also didn't know who I was driving against. And it was a club meeting, and I assumed that these were, I wasn't threatened by them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the pressure wasn't on. It also helped that it was biblical rain in qualifying, and I did quite well in the rain. So I qualified on pole, and then in the race it dried out, and then I was panicking, thinking, "Shit, I don't know how much grip this thing's got. Where do I brake, etc." Um, and dropped back a few places, and then I got the hang of the car and ended up winning the race. Well, actually, no, the first race I was leading and the throttle cable snapped. So in the second race, I started from the back of the grid. Not many cars, I think it was 14 or 15. Started from the back of the grid and took the lead on the last lap. I didn't know it was the last lap, and won the race. So that was really good. Good big confidence boost.
Yeah. You mentioned
Um,
the aspect of it after that rough 2007 season. How hard was that to come back and just reset into the 2008 season with all the press on you?
um, well, it wasn't really. Well, I guess it was a reset. I mean, I had no sponsors. I'm trying to think what happened at the beginning. Yeah, beginning of 2008, I had a monster crash at um, where is it? Alton Park.
Okay, yeah.
That was testing paid out of my own pocket. So I was lucky. I got a little bit of inheritance from my grandmother then, and I spent it on testing.
Mm.
And what had happened coming into Drury, the second last corner is a flat out corner in a Formula Ford, and you're doing about 140 something. And you lift, it's just a lift, and then you're back on. Anyway, when I lifted, the throttle stayed open, and I hit the wall at pretty much max speed, over 140 miles an hour. The what, and obviously the team were going to bill me for this, and then luckily one of the mechanics said, I said, when was that throttle cable last changed? Because the throttle cable had frayed,
Yeah.
and that's how it got open, and they hadn't changed it since the beginning of last season.
Oh God.
They never changed it since they had the car. So I said, "Well, if you think I'm paying for this, you not a chance." But anyway, that was my start to 2008. And then nothing happened until Mallory, which was, I think, I can't remember, May, June, or July, so
Yeah.
around the middle of the season. And then towards the end of the season, I got was contacted. I was put in touch with a friend of my uncle's, who then he invited me out to somewhere in Germany for a test and a road car to see what I was like, and then he put me in touch with another German friend of his who ended up managing me and covering my sponsors as well in the Formula ADAC Masters in Germany. But that was a very different ball game to Formula Ford. I was just starting to get my head around a Formula Ford. Um, but then these cars were carbon fiber chassis with downforce and very little room, little room for error. When a Formula Ford slides, you can feel it sliding before it's going to slide, and then you've got half an hour to catch it. Whereas these, carbon fiber chassis is, you've got to know when it's going to go, because if it's most of the time when it goes, you just don't have the time to catch it. And so that was quite tricky to drive them. And then I did the 2009 season, well, about two-thirds of it. Um, had a couple of sort of moments of glory just when I was, my pace was really good. But most of the time, the pressure I was putting myself, my mental issue was just getting worse and worse. It was snowballing out of control. I even went, my manager spent a lot of money on me on physical and mental analysis to try and figure it out.
Yeah.
Um, but we couldn't, so I stopped racing completely, and I left motorsport in 2009.
Yeah.
Um, and then it wasn't until 2014 that I came back.
Am I right in saying you came back in endurance racing at that time?
That's right. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I was well aware that I was, too old for getting hopes for Formula One then.
Yeah.
and a bit wiser as realistically financially. Unless a fairy godmother comes along, it's not going to happen.
I have a
So
couple
I
of questions about the switch to endurance racing because obviously you've been fortunate in the past to even get to drive a couple of your dad's Formula One cars. So I was just going to say, what would you say the difference between like a 2007 Formula Ford car, which at the time for you was modern, between a more retro Formula One car? What's the difference in terms of grip and everything?
well, obviously not nearly the same amount of grip because you got Formula Four's got tires, tiny little tires, and no downforce. But the feel of the car, although I, I need to add that I've never really had the chance to drive one of these cars in anger.
Yeah,
I've only had the tires worn once, which was at Goodwood with lots of us spectators. It was at the members' meeting, so I did maybe 6 or 7 laps or something. And that's when I really felt the grip because I could see the car in front of me was going. I reckon he was going flat around this fast right-hander. So I thought, well, if he can do it, I'll do it. Tires warm now. Let's see what happens. Um, that's yeah. So they've got a hell of a lot more grip, but the role of the chassis that is the same
your
because
dad's McLaren.
they roll even more. So you've got even more feeling for me at least.
Did you drive the McLaren or the Hesketh from your dad? Or did you drive both?
That was the at that time that was a Hesketh, the 308B, James Hagan's car, I think. I think it was James's, maybe not. But I've driven James's another Hesketh at Goodwood. I've driven the M23 at Silverstone just for 2 or 3 laps behind a camera car. That's all
Yeah.
I've done.
So what's the
But
feeling
it's the
about?
anniversary, yeah. So hopefully I'll be doing a bit more. It's the 50th anniversary of Dad's Championship this year.
Is it?
So we've got events, big presence at Goodwood Members Meeting and the Festival of Speed. So with a bit of luck, I'll be driving some cars there.
Well, I'm hoping to go to Goodwood this year, so maybe I'll even see you.
No, no, yeah,
That'd be
that'd be good.
fantastic. That you driving your dad's 50th anniversary championship winning car, that would be very, very special to you, I would imagine.
That would be certainly, yeah, yeah.
So yeah, the switch to endurance racing, was that always something that you wanted to do, or was it something that was like brought to you?
No, I'd never really considered it earlier on, and then when I came back, I thought, well, I did do one season in a single seater. Well, it was a short winter season. It was just 3 weekends. And then I got it from then I did got in a GT4 shortly after that, and I felt a lot more comfortable in the GT car. And again, it's all psychology, but because it was a longer stint, I felt I could relax a little bit more, and I didn't have to push so hard, and as a result, I went faster. So
Yeah.
then we had a good, we had a win. The one and only 24-hour race I've done, which was at Kota in 2016, I think.
Mm.
And we won the race. And I was going faster and faster in the race, when normally I'd go faster and faster in practice, but when it comes to the races, I'll go slower and slower
Yeah.
as I get worked up. But I was improving my lap times during the race, so that again, it's all about confidence. That built my confidence. And then when I first got into an LMP3 car, that was a success. We came second in class and sixth overall at a race in Estoril. Um, and that was the first time I'd driven at night as well. So that was, yeah.
Is it fair to
It's
say you
had
enjoyed those cars more?
sorry.
Is it fair to say you enjoyed those endurance cars more?
Yeah, yeah. The LMP3 I really liked. And I did a race, the first race of the Le Mans Cup. Well, my first race in Le Mans Cup was at Le Mans in 2019, and with no prior testing, and I hadn't. Oh, did I do a day test? No, I don't think I did. No, I turned up with no testing, and I hadn't driven the track before,
Okay.
and qualified third. So that was cool.
Do you have a lot of
Uh,
sympathy for drivers like, for example, Liam Lawson last year? He was chucked straight into a top team with like tracks he has never driven before, never tested at. So from you having that experience and not being tested at a track, do you have sympathy for those types of drivers?
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, I think they're a little bit hasty with getting rid of him so quickly, but it was a lot of pressure on him, and yeah.
Yeah. So
But
when you started,
he's in the Red Bull next year, this year, or have I got
uh,
getting mixed up? This
so Lawson is in the Racing Bulls this year, and then Lindblad is in the Red Bull.
Limblad. Oh right.
Yeah, he's a Formula Two driver.
What they're picking him straight out of F2, going into the Red Bull with Max.
Oh, sorry, no, Isaac Hadjar's in Red Bull.
That's Hadjar.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. I knew it was
my
one of the
fault.
two. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Lindblad
yeah.
is partnering Lawson, so Sonoda's without a seat,
That's the one. Yeah, that's right.
which is sad for Yuki really. But
Yeah, same to see him go. I like Yuki. He's quite cool.
yeah, he's got a bit of a temper about him as well, which is nice to see. A little bit of character.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah.
But
I remember when it was a really funny interview with him. Well, they were interviewing all the drivers, and what's your dream, your ultimate dream? And they were all to say, to win the F1 championship. And Yuki says, I want to have my own restaurant.
That's fantastic. So yeah, more into your endurance racing then. Would you say that is the highlight of your career, that side of it, instead of the single seater stuff?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Mind you, there were a couple of times in Formula Ford where I've just felt so at one with the car.
Mm.
You know the famous quote of Senna. I can't remember exactly how it goes, but he said he was like he was outside himself. He was so
Yes.
at one. Yeah, yeah. I think it was at Monaco. It kind of felt like that. Where I was just so dialed in and so peaceful in the car. It wasn't. There was not an ounce of stress. It was just pure joy, and to the point where I was sort of, you know, my brain capacity required for driving the car reduced massively, so I could think about other things, and that was the best I've ever driven was in a Formula Ford.
Mm.
Not actually during that 2007 season when I did the Walter Hayes Trophy. Can't remember which year, but a few years later, it must have been maybe 2014 or 15, I suppose. Um, Sadly, the car was a bit of a banger and the engine was down on power, but I still came fourth in class and 16th overall out of over 100 cars. So um, yeah, I'd like to do the Walter Hayes Trophy again in a top car.
Mm. Yeah. Out of your whole racing career, that what would you say is your proudest moment? Was it that performance at Le Mans, or
Yeah, the 2022 season in the Le Mans Cup, I mean, we came second in the championship and we won the last race of the season. We had three races where, had the safety car not come out, we had three more wins. So we would have dominated the championship if we didn't have bad luck with safety cars.
Mm.
Not dominated, but we would have comfortably win, I think, on points. But we And then in another race, we got a penalty for some silly little technicality, which had
Mm.
nothing to do with us. But yeah, that was. I mean, I drove pretty well in that. I'd say. I mean, qualifying pole in Spa, and I'd never driven Spa before, and it was really greasy, and I got pole by a comfortable margin, I think, and that felt pretty good.
Yeah, I can imagine. But the other thing I wanted to ask you about was, I know you've spoken. I won't go too much into detail on this because I know you've spoken on loads of other podcasts about this, about your distaste for the movie Rush and how it doesn't paint your dad in the right picture. So I just wanted to ask you. Obviously, you've got to spend a lot of time with Nicky Lauda. From your experience with just talking to other Formula One drivers and other people in F1, how would you say your dad is presented?
I mean, Dad was. I mean, he's very badly behaved, but I mean, but not to the point of not nothing horrific.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
there's a scene
he
in
was
the movie
just
where he's
mischievous
drinking
and naughty,
before
but
race.
it was a completely different day. We're talking
Yeah.
50 years, and but he did it with humility. Uh, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Like I remember there's a scene in the movie where he's drinking before an F4 race, and I'm thinking, what the fuck is going on? Like, there's no way.
Oh, no, there's no way he would have done that.
Yeah.
He had a
So yeah, like, obviously I know you spent a lot of time with Nicky Lauda. Does he have any stories of your dad of back in the day racing with him, or anything you've you're just talking to the other drivers?
I mean, Nikki and I didn't actually speak to you that much, and every time I did, it was on camera.
Oh, that's a
Um,
shame.
and the few things he did say to me off camera, I won't repeat. That was between he and I.
Yeah.
Uh, but he was so complimentary of Dad, and he really did love Dad. And the first thing he ever said to me, um, when I first met him, was in 2009 at Hockenheim. I was on the grid, pre DCM race because Matthias was driving in the race, And before he'd even reached me to shake my hand, his first words were, "I loved your father."
Oh,
Uh,
uh,
so I mean, that was really amazing.
yeah,
Um, and hearing modern F1 drivers, what they say about that, just and
I
many
never knew it.
people,
So
yeah, no, but what they can see,
yeah,
and young, well, people like Jenson Button as well, who's I still consider him a modern driver, although he's retired now.
yeah.
I think Jenson was a bit of a fan of Dad. Um, and what was I going to say?
You
I've lost it
mentioned
now.
Button, and
Yeah, I mean, even Lewis had some great things to say about Dad, and I wasn't really expecting that from Lewis. He was
Lewis
quite
is
serious.
always super PR. So
Yeah.
yeah. So like, when was it you started finding out that your dad was a racing driver, and like, to what extent did you realize he he the effect he had on the UK, and obviously being such a great British driver? You mentioned you knew he was a world champion when you were younger, but when was it you appreciated what it takes to be an F1 world champion?
When I started racing, well,
Yeah.
maybe 6 months or a year, probably a year or two into my racing, when I
Yeah.
realised just how how well he did, considering all the circumstances. It's a great book. And there's only two books that are endorsed by the family, which is the biography by Gerald Donaldson, written after he died, and then James Hunt Against All Odds, when that was written with Dad, sometime between his retirement and his death. And that's very insightful into how he operated.
Mm.
And Against All Odds is very accurate because his path to Formula One was so underfunded. He didn't have any help from his parents. He had to build his own Mini. He had to take out a loan to buy a Formula Ford, which if you crash that, game over. And then he was picked, and then I think he drove for March in F3. Shortly after that, was fired by March because he crashed too often, but he was very quick. But he had this sort of inconsistency, and he got the name Hunt the Shunt because of his crashes, and
I
then
like.
just by good fortune, or the stars aligned, and bumped into Bubbles, which is Anthony Horsley, who was the current driver for Hesketh at the time, but then said, right, I'm retiring from driving, and James, you're driving, and this is to Alexander Hesketh. He said, I'll be the team manager, and Alexander said yes.
Yeah. God, I forgot what I was going to say now, but yeah. Everyone, don't watch the movie Rush. Watch the biography that Freddie just said.
Well, that's it. We're actually making a documentary this year to set the record straight, as it were. Kind of. We just want to. I mean, there's an awful lot more about there the that hasn't really been published in the media. I mean, they've brushed on it, but they focus on his success and his partying and his womanizing.
Mm.
And that, so there's an awful lot more to tell. So that we are making a documentary this year, authorized, with the involvement with the family. I hope it comes out well.
Yeah, that's gonna be absolutely brilliant. I personally can't wait to watch that because there's so much more I'd love to hear about your dad. Especially like from yourself, especially because when I heard you on a podcast mention the movie Rush and saying like that misconception your dad massively, um, I really wanted to know what it was actually like for you, and from the family more personally, how it comes across
Mm.
to them. So I
I mean,
think,
I would like to say that. I mean, the movie wasn't that bad.
mm,
It is a good movie,
yeah,
and they weren't that far off the truth. It was just Hemsworth didn't quite capture the essence of Dad, and the fact that he didn't contact the family to do research. When in
yeah,
comparison, Nicky, what Daniel Brawl did with Nicky, which was
mm,
live with him for 2 weeks.
mm,
So that comparison, that just like it's just unprofessional.
yeah, extremely,
You know what I
extremely
mean?
professional, yeah. I mean, I'm sure you wouldn't have minded living with Chris Hemsworth for 2 weeks, right?
Well, I haven't met the bloke, so I can't comment. But I would have been impressed that he was trying to make the effort. I mean, it would have been me. It would have been my uncles
No, of
and
course,
chat
of course. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
friends and stuff. That's where he would have got the
Yeah.
information from. But I told he didn't really do that.
Yeah. I mean, there would have been so much more to capture, but I mean, like you said, it's cinema at the end of the day. So I think that documentary will be really, really good, and I can't wait to see how it comes out.
Cool. Yeah. Hopefully.
So yeah, moving on. I did want to ask you a little bit about the sport we all love in 2026. So I know you said you've been keeping up with F1. Is there any other motorsports you like to keep up with at all during your time? I know you're busy.
Not really. I mean, I watch Le Mans, well, not the whole lot when I can, when it's on. Yeah, I mean, if I've got a friend in a race, that's televised, I'll watch that. But that's
Yeah.
pretty much it. Yeah.
So what do you think about F1 in 2026? I know you mentioned the earlier about the like the new engines and all that, but do you think F1's moving in the right direction, or is it not for you?
No, I don't know really.
Yeah.
We'll see what it's like when the cars come out. But I think it seems like they're quite I mean, I think the cars are quite complicated already,
Hmm.
and now that with these moving wings and whatnot, it sounds like they're complicating even more. Is that necessary?
I'll tell you what they need to do. They need to put all the 20 drivers in the 70s cars, late 70s. Then we'll see how they get on.
Yeah, well, I don't think many of them have to drive them because, well, I remember one F1 driver he's retired now, but he was offered to drive one of Dad's cars, and he said, "No, I don't know how to work the gear stick because I've only ever used paddle."
Of course, yeah, because you actually had a physical gear stick in those
Yeah,
cars.
and those are H pattern gearboxes that aren't easy either. You can miss a gear just like that and launch the gearbox, and then the engine, and that's game over just by a tiny little mistake. So you've got to really got to concentrate what you're doing with your gear changes.
Would there be a clutch
Um,
pedal as well then in those old cars?
yeah. You've got to put the clutch all the way down, unlike a Formula Ford.
So foot right to the floor, changing gears whilst you're going 140 miles an hour.
Yep. Yep.
Yep. Oh god, I know what the drivers mean now when they talk about heel toe method and all that. Oh god.
Mm. Also, the brake pedal is not like a block. In the modern cars I've driven, when you brake, it might move, I don't know, a centimeter or two. And those ones, it's like driving my Hilux. Well, the
I
movement on the brake.
I think it was a race last year, maybe the year before. George Russell lost the like his screen display, and obviously, if you lose that, it's fucking game over nowadays. But I was thinking, in the 70s, I didn't
Yeah.
find having a
Yeah.
screen.
Temperature, revs. Yeah, water temperature, oil temperature, revs. I think that's about it.
Yeah, it was all just a feel back then, literally all just a
Mm.
feel.
But they've got a lot more things to worry about, and they change the diff and all sorts of different
Of course,
mapping settings. There's loads of different things
bits
they
and
can
bobs.
change. Yeah.
So, in 2026, what can we expect of Freddie Hunt? Are you going to be up to anything much? Obviously, you mentioned the documentary. You mentioned you potentially go into Goodwood. Is there anything else in particular you're going to be doing this year? What can we expect?
Obviously, I'd like to do some driving, and I'm keeping my eye out, keeping my maintaining my race license, my fitness,
Hmm.
but I'm more concentrating on my fashion brand now,
Of course, yeah,
which
yeah, yeah.
is I mean that's the main focus of things right now. Building a new business takes a lot of time, a lot of energy,
Yeah.
so and I can't do everything at once.
Did I see Lando Norris wearing some? The
Yes, you did.
Hunt? Yeah, it looks really cool. It looks really, really cool.
Thank you.
How did that come about? You starting that fashion brand?
So a friend of mine, we met racing actually, another racing driver. That was in 2014. We became friends, and we came up with this idea,
Hmm.
and we've been slowly building it, just sort of drip feeding it, as it were, the R&D over the years. But it's actually been an awful lot of R&D has to go into clothes. I never realised that. Um, and we launched 2.5 years ago, I think, and yeah, so far so good. People are enjoying. People are liking the clothes, but it's point of the brand. It's more than just clothing. I mean, they're pieces of art.
Yeah.
They're made by hand. It takes months to make one piece. It's all done by hand. There's not a single machine in sight. Um, We dye all the fabrics ourselves, so we can control where the waste is going, etc. And it's all natural fabrics, and they really are, they're works of art
Mm,
rather than, they'll certainly be never mass produced. Each jacket will never be more than 25 made of each one.
yeah,
So it's kind of a niche business, I suppose. But
I
um,
really like that though. It's a bit of the exclusivity of it is what sells it.
mm, yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah, that's really cool. I never expected racing drivers or anything to go into making fashion brands, but then I guess you got Lewis doing it now, and a couple of other drivers like
I do
start.
everything, mate. I'm running a farm. I used to have a pest control business. I've done all sorts. Well, polo racing, pest control,
Documentaries,
racing.
production.
Yeah, yeah. A little bit of filming, a little bit of TV presenting, and now farming.
Would you like to go into more of like a pundit role of like presenting F1 or something like that?
Mm, part time,
Yeah,
sure, but not. Wouldn't want to commit to too many weekends here.
yeah, 24.
Again, I've got my. I've already got enough on it. I can't do everything. I'm juggling as it is. I got up at 4:45 this morning, and I have not stopped all day.
Oh God. Well, we'll start closing you up now. I want you to enjoy the rest of your evening. So yeah, is there anywhere we can find your stuff, mate? Anywhere at all? Obviously Freddie Hunt on Instagram, but is there anywhere else you wanted people to check in and keep up with what you're doing? Obviously your clothing brand. Anything else?
Yeah, I mean the clothing brand we are finally getting around to doing a little bit more Instagram stuff. So I mean, the brand is LK Hunt,
Yep.
ELKHUNT. Obviously, there's a website, my own Instagram. If you want to have a look at that and follow me, no problem. Freddie Hunt official.
Of course. And the last question we ask every guest. I want one name from you. Who's going to be 2026 Formula One World Champion?
Probably Alonso, to be honest.
I like your optimism. Everyone, that's been Paddock Chat. It's been the fantastic Freddie Hunt. It's been fantastic. I hope to see you guys next week. Take care.